Hello, Tom.
Hey, Dana.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain.
Welcome. Welcome. You can if you want. We have a platform here. Welcome to Two Guys Talking Toys. Welcome back, loyal listeners. Tom, I was watching, how last week I was complaining because for some reason I would throw in the filler like all the
Yes.
time.
Mhm.
Well, I watched last week's episode and I realized we could have begun a drinking game with how many times I said the word fantastic. So
Don't feel bad. If we did the same thing with a number of times I say we wouldn't have an audience.
I'm becoming self-conscious.
We'll run a little stinger that has see there I go again. We're a little stinger where you can call poison control or just dial 911 for alcohol poisoning. I mean, we apologize in advance, but you shouldn't be playing a drinking game to toy podcasts. Take a drink
Fantastic.
of Hawaiian Punch. Do that
Yeah.
instead. Then you'll just have
Yeah.
to run to the restroom.
Oh man, speaking of, I left my drink. I always have a drink here.
You're gonna have the
Anyway.
driest mouth.
I know. I'm gonna be like just passing out later. Did you get anything new?
I did. I have both. It's been a fairly decent time right now. I guess stores are gearing up for getting some new stuff, so they have been clearancing out some of their older things. But first, let's do
the
before we
drum
get
roll.
into that. Let's see what I got. Let's see what's in the box, because I once again have forgotten what I ordered. I also forgot
every time you do this, we should play a clip of Brad Pitt with what's in the box.
I'll have to make a graphic. What's in it? And one day I really will order. It'll be like the Godzilla head that's behind me. One day
Right.
I can get one of those and I'll look horrified.
But don't get a Gwyneth Paltrow head. That would be bothersome.
Oh, I know what these are.
Let's see.
Oh, really? There's no artwork on the actual box itself. All right, so this is the box, but what's inside?
Box in a box.
What's inside these boxes are wow, these are really taped well. Good job, Mattel. This is Rock On from the Mattel Creations drop.
Oh, very cool. I want to see that.
I would love to.
I got notice from Hasbro Pulse that my the G.I. Joe clutch and the Jeep is coming.
Really?
Yeah.
I think they recently put up or they refreshed the pre-orders for the Vamp, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because that had sold out. So did you order?
Shipping soon? Yeah.
Did you order one of those?
I did.
Oh, enjoy. Let me know how that is. I'm
going to instantly regret it, but I did order.
You'll love it. It'll be great. You'll be glad you did it later, because that looked pretty awesome. It's a whole lot to really making you work for Rock On here.
Yeah, the toy that I'm going to show, I just opened it and I had like a breakout tools to get it out.
Did you order Rock On during the drop?
I didn't. No.
So I guess kind of kudos to Mattel Creations, because they announced the time, they give you the pre-order window, and then you get on and you order them. So here we go. So here's actual Rock On. He looks pretty good. I'm a little surprised that they didn't do a 2-pack, like just do a 2-pack release with him and Stondar. The back art is pretty cool. We keep getting teases for Modulok, so he's definitely coming at some point.
I think my younger brother used to hang out with a kid that called himself Stondar.
Just stoned, period. Just all the time. And then he would say, "Rock on, man." But the ordering process was fine, but then you got to the CAPTCHA. And I'm glad I wasn't the only person that had this experience, because I've heard other people talk about it, where you got these weird, you would get pictures of say like 3 raccoons and 2 cars, and it would say, which one of these needs water? And you're like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
That's a weird one.
Yeah, people.
Well, because maybe you're actually a robot. That's why you didn't understand it.
Very possible. We've been interacting.
Clearly, raccoons need water.
We've been interacting with computers for so long, they've just suddenly taken us over. and now we can't understand our own captchas. But
Right.
I was listening to a few other shows, and other people also experience just strange, weird. I guess bots are getting so much smarter that I wonder if they're
Right.
able to solve just generic captchas like find the number, and it
Find
can
the
recognize
just find the
numbers.
crosswalk. Find
Yeah,
the yeah.
but if it has to figure out, if a
Right,
stone is
because it's a
thrown in the
logic. It's a
forest,
logic question. It's not a recognizing a pattern.
yeah, it just comes down
Yeah.
to riddles now. Where if a tree falls in
Yep.
the forest, move the tree. But but yeah, so I got two of these, and it was a pretty good drop, and it went quick, and they did a good job. So good job, Mattel Creations.
Nice.
Decent price. Also, speaking of decent prices, I
Oh,
finally
nice.
found and picked up a Moss Man. Um, these were hard to come across. So, like when they first started getting dropped, and I started
Right.
hearing the people were getting them, he was nowhere to be found. Now he is, and not only is he's I got this for 30.
Oh,
But
nice.
I'm all over that those teaser Snake Men pictures on the back.
Right.
Who man, give me all these Snake Men.
Mm.
Also, give me Snake Men and Masterverse. I'm being greedy. Like we've done really
You are
well.
making some demands today, Tom.
Yeah, there's a lot of Snake Men in the Origins line, and I love it. And it's great. And I got the 3-pack, multiple 3-packs, and I love it. But I'm ready for some Masterverse style Snake Men. So real quick, speaking of Moss Man, my favorite Moss Man story actually has nothing to do with Moss Man himself. He's one of my favorite characters.
I'm glad to hear you sharing a story that you're happy about. And you haven't had one of your like,
Yeah,
grumpy
yeah,
old men moments in a
yeah,
while.
no griping. That'll come later. I'm sure. I'll be grouchy about something coming up in the discussion. But I was going through some of my bins, and I'm pulling stuff out and pulling stuff out, and I opened this one. One of my bins had Stinkor in it, and he was by himself, and I said, okay, good job, past me. But also I knew I had Classics Moss Man somewhere, and I couldn't find him. And he wasn't with the other Classics, and I didn't know why, but I was positive that I purchased him. So I'm going through and I'm arranging stuff, and then I come across this one bin. It had like a bunch of the DC characters in it. And one of them was Poison Ivy, and sitting next to her, out of the, I guess he was still boxed, but not in like the mailer, was Moss Man.
Right.
And I
You are just
stared.
a toy matchmaker between Scareglow and Lady Death and Poison Ivy
Oh
and
yeah,
Moss
that's
Man. It makes
right.
sense.
I stared and laughed, and I was like, well, how about that? Life, love, found a way.
Right. Right.
What a great pairing. Do that crossover. He-Man has crossed over with DC. There's a great couple of comics about it. And I don't
Except for that
recall.
He-Man versus Superman thing.
Oh yeah, I think that was the first one, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Where Skeletor kind of slapped around Superman because magic. He was like, wait a minute, are you Silver Age Superman? Or are you current Superman? Because current one I can beat, can deal with that one. Silver Age Superman, no one's beating him.
Silver
But
Age.
yeah,
Nope.
so
Nope.
fun stuff with Boss Man. Look around for him, people, because Walmart's starting to clear out. Good luck, by the way, in advance for CollectorCon. That's
Right.
coming up.
I've only seen him in the store once, and I
That's
bought 2 of them. And then
oh good plan. Yeah, he's starting to they're starting to clear him out because they want to make as many people angry. That's gonna be my gripe. Probably sometime next week, because I think they go on sale the 15th, 14th, 15th. I need to double check, or
right.
I'll miss it, and then I'll be real mad. Like it's not
And then
hard
there'll
enough
be
to
a
find
super
stuff that
gripe. We'll do a
super
whole
gripe
episode of you
coming.
just being angry about it.
Super gripes. What have you
I
found?
I got a rescue from the Target parking lot.
Fantastic.
This little unicorn.
Aw, hey, it's like an ice
Missing an
cream
ear.
cone.
Missing an ear.
Oh,
It
she's
got
got some battle damage.
yeah, and the hair comes off, and
Oh, that's awesome.
she got kind of squished, but you could kind of push the hair back on, but I couldn't find the ear to glue back on. So
Oh,
little
she's
she's
got
a
a
little winky unicorn. Yeah. So that was in Target parking lot.
now, where are you going to keep her? Are you going to put her with the other
She'll
parking
sit with
lot
the
rescues?
other misfit toys, yeah. And then I picked up from Zuru Toys. We were always looking at them. The Robo Alive Dino Wars.
Yes.
I picked up the
Oh,
Stegosaurus,
very nice.
And it's a lot cooler than even I thought. One, it was lashed into that box so much so that there were like plastic
Oh, I've
screws
seen
you had
those.
to undo to yeah. They
You're
were
not
pretty
walking out of the store with that unless you paid for it.
only gripe didn't come with the batteries. So it,
Really?
these
Of all the
spines look
things.
as though they light up, but it didn't come with the
Mhm.
batteries. But it was cheap. So, I think that's why they can keep the cost down. The
Those
coolest thing,
spines do look great. They look kind of like almost like plate glass.
yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
stained
they look
glass.
rock candy. And the coolest thing about the eyes, those glass eyes,
Yeah. Oh,
those
they
are
reflect
cool.
like that is really cool.
Yeah, the eyes on all of these are very cool. The armor comes off. You can take it off if you wanted to. And the gun is articulated.
Wow. Good job.
Yeah, it goes up and down and sideways and all kinds of ways. And you and I have always been discussing these as to be a steed for the Soazoric warriors,
Yes.
which I have here.
We're about
So
to see it live.
they look really good together.
They do look really good. Can he
The
oh can you manage to get him on his back? I know this the plates are kind of
the plates are going to be difficult.
a little pushed together.
Yeah, but I mean he could go around his neck. I'm sure we could come up with something, but you know,
That's so cool.
yeah, and it's a good size.
It is. That's
It
a pretty
makes
decent size.
it makes a good display. They pair perfectly
That is awesome.
with the Sorozoic warriors.
I've been trying to find a
Oh,
decent
he fell.
size. He said it's time to attack. I've
Yeah,
been trying to find a decent sized Jurassic Park figure for some of the Saurozoic warriors, and some of the ones that look really good, like some of the different variations of the Triceratops and the Styracosaur, look
yeah,
really good, but they're just a little too small. So they'd be more like a companion
right.
than
I,
an actual like battle mount.
I like that these guys kind of have an animated look to them. Like the
Yes.
Jurassic Park guys are much more photorealistic, and
Mhm.
these guys sort of share that aesthetic. I
Yeah, like
think
that right
this
there.
pairs really well.
It really does, and I don't know if that's on purpose or if they, if the sculpting was, well, we don't need to make them 100%. Like they're not going in a museum, so we'll just,
Yeah,
we'll add a little bit more life to the character.
yeah, I love these guys. I
Those
can't
look
wait for the second race.
fantastic.
But when I opened this and put it next to these guys,
They look like
I
they do look like
it's
they were made for the same line.
right. Even
That
the
is really cool.
armor is sort of the same kind of look.
Yeah, it's got that
I love it.
kind of like that futuristic the way the '90s interpreted futuristic armor.
Right.
And
Yeah.
in like the most fun, best way possible, with the big honking cannon, with the extra bit over the eyes of the Stegosaurus, like it needed more armor.
Right. Very Leafield-esque.
It just needs a few
But
more pouches.
not disappointed. First one I've gotten. We've
Yeah, that
spoken
looks
about
great.
them forever. And now
Yeah,
you can find them in Target. Used to be able to find them in like Burlington and Marshalls,
yeah.
but now they're carrying them in Target. Um, I got this one. It was like $10.
Oh, okay, that's really
And
good.
it, so they range between 10 and 22
Mhm.
bucks depending on the size. But after seeing this with them, I'm gonna get more. I think that'll be just a really cool looking display.
So this is why I love repaints. I know a lot of people. You hear a lot of people griping about repaints and slight retools of things. If you give me a really good mold, I want the rainbow of that. Like, because
Mm,
you got to be able to appreciate just a single great mold for what it is, and want to see how it looks in different colorways. Like that,
mm.
I've nagged Boss Fight repeatedly on Twitter. They're probably tired of me. I would take the entire swords. Like if they just released Wave One of the Saurozoic Warriors in multiple colors, if they just swap the colors on them,
Right. If they did some
I'm
blues
there.
or purples or reds,
Yep.
would be great.
And they don't have to change anything else about them. They can, but they don't have to change. For me, I'd be happy with them just being
Mhm.
multicolored.
Yeah. So Tom, to talk to you about today has nothing to do with any of the conversations we've ever had. People people ask all the time, why does Tom wear black all the time? And my response is always truthful. It is that you are a ninja.
People don't know this,
Yeah, and
and now
that's
you.
what ninjas do. They wear black because you never know when you have to fade back into the shadows or attack somebody, or it's just what ninjas do. You got to be ready to go. So
I don't even care if it's announced because people should know.
just don't. Tom's a ninja. That's all there is to it.
It's just what happens.
Mhm. And then that got me thinking about, you know, uh, we were talking about the 80s and the fantasy movies. The other thing that came big, starting with the 80s toy lines and then again in the 90s, was that
Mhm.
everybody had to have a ninja. I think it's because of Snake Eyes, but every toy line had that obligatory martial
Yes,
arts guy. And then
absolutely.
they started building toy lines around martial arts icons. So
Yes.
I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, martial arts and ninjas and the way they've influenced toys in our lifetime.
I love that you're doing this topic because you're completely right. There,
Because this
the
is something that's
inclusion.
truly our age group. Like, it's not cowboys and Indians, it's not the fantasy, it's not cops and robbers.
Yes,
Ninjas and martial arts are our thing.
yes, it completely is. And I remember the because we all grew up, like a lot of collectors who are around about, yeah, kind of in our age group. We all grew up watching those fantastic, and take a drink, those fantastic dubbed, badly dubbed martial arts
Right.
movies on
With
like
the
Saturday or
beard.
Sunday. Yeah, you always had the old wise man. You always had the kid, and it followed a lot of the same traditional stories that the
Right.
shows that we were watching grew up. You would have usually like a young warrior. They'd be wronged in some way, like their village would have been destroyed, their parents would have been murdered by like an evil shogun or some evil lord that's way off in some other land, and they would send usually their assassins were usually ninjas, but also sometimes just martial artists. And I feel like we should make the distinction because there is a lot of times it's just
Right.
interchangeable between martial artist
Right.
versus ninja. Ninja is a very specific type
Right.
of
And it kind of
uh,
started with the ninjas.
yes,
Do you
but you'd
remember the
have
TV show The Master?
it sounds familiar, but I don't remember the show.
It was exactly what you just talked about. It's a young
Hmm.
man studying to become a ninja, and there's an older guy, and I can't remember the actor's name, and
Hmm.
Dale's probably gonna write and yell at me for it. But uh I remember being turned on to the show because in the beginning, someone like in the opening credits, they show the scenes from the upcoming season, and
Hmm.
someone shot an arrow at him, and he was like, Shh. He just like caught the arrow,
Yeah,
and I was
it
like,
was.
sold. I'm watching this show, and it
Yeah,
was about a ninja training a younger guy to become a ninja. Yeah,
it was such a cool concept because it was, no pun intended, it was foreign to us that people could do some of the things we were seeing with their bodies.
yeah,
The whole cowboys and western thing. Those were steely eyed dudes on a horse with guns. So either they were in a bar fight or whatever. It was just a straight punch. You'd hear the sound of meat being slapped, and then the other guy would be done. But martial artists had, when you, especially when you got into the era of wire work, you had these
yeah,
guys who had trained their bodies. They could defy gravity. Like I said, they could catch arrows out of the air. That's amazing.
yeah.
And especially once you got into, I loved the different sound effects that were used in those films, where it just sounded like wood clacking each other. But if you're a kid, you're taking it out, you're suspending your disbelief. These guys are so tough that
Right.
when they chop and someone blocks, it's the sound of wood, and no one's bones are getting broken, and it's fast, and it looked so strikingly different from physical fights that we had seen before.
Right.
So,
I
and
think
you
we need to
wanted to
title this
replicate that.
episode Everybody's Kung Fu Fighting.
Carl Douglas would be proud,
He
for,
would indeed.
for better or worse. He
You
would
know,
be
it's
proud.
it started out with G.I. Joe for me because Snake Eyes originally was called the Commando in the
Mhm.
original, and he didn't come with swords.
Yeah.
He had an Uzi and
Mhm.
like, and then I don't know, some writer or character development guy turned him into a ninja, and then
Mhm.
that whole story, which I love, with him and Storm Shadow, not the
Yeah.
movie story, but the regular story.
Yeah, not the
Um,
movie where Snake Eyes is the secret bad guy.
and GI Joe fell into the same path that Marvel falls into. When they were
Mhm.
like, "Oh, everybody loves Wolverine, we'll turn everybody into Wolverine. Everybody loves Venom, we'll turn everybody into Venom." And then, somewhere along the lines, when GI Joe their sales started to dip,
Mhm.
into the later 80s, they were like, you know what? Everybody loves Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes.
Mhm.
So let's just make everybody a ninja. And
Everyone's a
then they
ninja.
had the whole ninja thing. And then they were like, you know what our ninjas are missing? Neon colors. I think we need to
Because
make our ninja. Let's make Zartan a ninja and give him a neon mohawk.
Yeah,
And
it was so easy to just attach the word ninja and because even the 2000X He-Man fell into this where they were releasing different variations of him, and there was
right,
martial quote unquote martial arts He-Man, and the only thing martial arts about him was one, his symbol now became what looked like a throwing star, and
right,
he came with what looked like maybe a pair of maces nunchuck, and
yeah,
that became such a standard thing. Especially again,
yeah.
especially stuff in the 90s, early 2000s, where we'll take the things that we recall about ninjas and just maybe like graft them to our franchise. So yeah, so you got the
Yeah, they did, and then they also had
arcade
Quick Kick,
ninjas and
though. They had Quick Kick, who was,
yes,
a martial artist, not a ninja.
there.
Jinx was a ninja, but they did that, and then, we got past the G.I. Joe, and when we were doing our wrestling bit when we were
Mhm.
kids, where everybody was eligible to become a ninja, I mean, a wrestler, um, Remco did a line of martial arts figures, and I have
Yes.
them all, and they're
Oh,
boxed
do
up.
you?
I have them all, yeah, but there was like the guy with the
I,
orange with the ponytail.
mhm.
I almost said fantastic. They were excellent figures.
Yeah,
They were excellent figures.
I remember. Do you remember the I mean, we can't talk martial arts unless we talk about the Karate Kid.
Yes, also Remco, I believe.
Yes,
Same kind of buck. Yep.
yeah, that original Remco line. And I remember my favorite figure in that toy line was the ref
Oh,
because they used
yes.
like that huge beefy
Yeah, he
wrestling
was
buck for
ripped.
him. It's like this guy knows no martial arts. He just knows crazy.
Yeah, this is the final boss that Bruce Lee has to fight at the end of his film.
And good, glad you brought up Bruce Lee because the original. Let's latch on to. He was the top martial arts icon
Yeah,
that
he is.
everyone
Yeah.
thought of, and everyone styled some character. Yeah, like so, Quick Kick was their quote unquote their Bruce
Right.
Lee style character, and holy cow, when you got into video
Oh, yeah.
games love them
Oh my
so much.
gosh. Yeah. And think of all the
Fighting
cool,
games as
like
a
the Mortal
whole,
Kombat figures, the
yeah,
Street Fighter figures, all of them came from those cool video games. And
and
all of those video games latched on, like, those are
yeah,
all from the 80s.
we just talked about my love of repaints, and who loves repainting things more than Mortal Kombat loves repainting ninjas. You got
Yeah.
your Sub-Zero, your Scorpion, your Ermac, your Rain, your Reptile, and I love all of them.
Right. Oh, yeah. You never get sick
Give
of it.
me all the ninjas. And I mean, and they, to their credit, they began to kind of make them a little bit more distinctive as they went forward.
Right.
And we've gotten some really great toys from that line, and I love it. Street Fighter, same thing. You've got your martial arts style tournament, and the rest of the story is just cobbled together. But the core of it is we need a martial arts story starring this guy who knows martial arts, Ryu, and then he's got his gold haired buddy, and then we've got uh Sagat, and then we've got Chun Li. The the crux of it is that, and
Yeah.
to bring it back to toys, holy cow, some of the most recent toys that have been released for those look amazing.
So good. So good. Not fantastic, but amazing. You
Not
know what
fantastic.
toy line got me really excited when it came out? Because I was a big fan, is Chuck Norris and the Karate Commandos.
I remember that toy line, but I'm probably in the minority here. I was not a Chuck Norris fan. I did not like him. Well, I was not a
Oh,
fan.
I
I
love the
was
Chuck Norris. Plus, like, he was right in that ilk with, Charles Bronson in that time frame. You know what I mean?
Nothing made
Um,
me happier than seeing Bruce Lee beat him to death. The moment where he rips out the chest hair just did
yeah,
it for me. I thought it was great. That's
I
up there.
love,
That's up there
I,
with what I wanted to see in Godzilla versus Kong. I was just there for one moment. I
right.
needed these people to have Bruce Lee defeat Chuck Norris, just like spoilers, people from 3 years ago. I needed to see Godzilla beat King Kong,
Yes.
preferably to death.
Yeah, sorry you didn't get your coup de grace there, but um, Chuck Norris was always my favorite because he would get, you know what I love? He would beat the guy up, and the guy would keep coming back and fighting, and it'd be like, oh my God, these guys are so. And then there'd be a roundhouse kick that you'd see from different angles, like, and then and that ends it. Like he could like, and
Oh, you
nobody
get
can withstand a roundhouse kick from Chuck Norris. He'd knock out Godzilla with a roundhouse.
you get one special move. It's like the turbo boost in Knight Rider. You
Right,
get one special, and then that's it. Fight's over. Just like
right,
in wrestling, you hit your finisher, and then match is over. Or at least that's how it used to be. Not
right.
now. Here's my gripe for today's episode. Nowadays, you have people who in the opening match, it's a Canadian destroyer off the top rope through plate glass, and the guy kicks out at one.
Right.
I feel like that should
You
change.
you you
Um,
reached the ultimate old man gripe stage because you started the gripe with the word nowadays.
Nowadays, these kids and their crazy. I sound like Jim Cornette.
Yeah. The one thing about the Chuck Norris and the Karate Commandos when they came out, I remember specifically when we discovered, like we began that phase of our playing. I
Mhm,
believe we were in North Carolina, maybe,
mhm,
and we were on some sort of vacation. But outside the hotel is this giant rock
mhm.
edifice, and you could climb up it. And we were playing up on the mountain with our guys, and that's when we got when the Rambo figures came out,
Oh yeah.
and M Force. So they
Mhm,
were all of similar size with that military kind of motif. So we had M Force, Rambo, and then I had Chuck Norris and
mhm,
the Karate Commandos. And there were a couple, there was the sumo guy, which was awesome, and there were a couple of
mhm.
figures in that line. Now, my brothers had Rambo and M Force, and they could beat up on any of the other guys. But if Chuck Norris showed up, you weren't allowed to beat Chuck. It was like Hulk Hogan in the 80s. You're not allowed to beat Chuck Norris.
After he shows up, he's already gotten the invincible star, and he runs down, and that's his theme song,
Yeah.
and he beats everybody.
Yep.
Um, so, so I want to talk about Marvel real quick and Marvel's
Right.
association with it because you already mentioned Wolverine, and
Mhm.
I feel like it wasn't until maybe a few years ago that we actually started to get ninja figures from
We had a
Hasbro.
toy
I,
from Hasbro. Yes, we had a Toy Biz Wolverine who was wearing a gi. He had the
yeah,
white with the black belt. We
yeah,
had
they
that.
they did a lot of like ninja style versions of existing
Mhm.
characters, but we never got because Daredevil's main foe was Elektra, who was a ninja in her own right, and then you had the
Right.
hand, and the hand was just waves and waves of faceless ninjas, and
Right.
we
I love
never.
that ninjas become just garbage in the comic books. Like Wolverine was sliced through 100 ninjas on his way to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And even with the League of Assassins, like they're
Oh yeah,
armed
same
and
same
well
thing.
trained, and Batman beats them with his fists. He doesn't
Just
even have a sword.
and even though it might be a little bit more believable with someone like Batman, I I'm not seeing it with what Wolverine is trained, but
Right.
is Wolverine trained to be a ninja? I don't remember offhand. I
He
know that
has
he
berserker
had his
rage, and he was a samurai. He was more samurai trained because,
okay.
historically, ninjas are viewed as villains, and the samurai were viewed as
Mhm.
the protectors of peace. Yeah,
So we had when we were growing up, we had like you said there was the like Ninja Force from GI Joe. There was
right.
this
And when
kind of the
that came
start
out,
of
because Snake Eyes can't talk, I
Mhm.
always thought Snake Eyes was just in the corner, dressed in black, going,
Here I go. Gotta
just
save
shrugging his
these.
shoulders, like, what, what?
Gotta save these. This is a terrible plan. We should
Yeah,
not do this. This is
but
awful.
they fell into that. Ninjas are just stormtroopers.
And I guess kind of the tail end of that because the 90s spent a lot of time trying to figure out what it was. The 80s gave
Yep.
us all these bonkers, cuckoo banana stuff. And the 90s afterwards was still trying to hold on to that, but also make sense of it, but have their own thing. So a
Yeah.
lot of kids that grew up in the 90s, early 2000s,
Well, Cuckoo
they're
Bananas things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
yes, they had Ninja
That's
Turtles, but they also had Power Rangers.
yes. Oh,
Power
yes. We
Rangers was
definitely have to
like
talk about Power
every
Rangers.
like I feel like the new nostalgia, even though Super Sentai has not stopped in Japan, but I think a lot of the nostalgia that the next generation after us is going to have is for Power Rangers because
Yes.
we all remember the show. Everyone can hum the theme song. We won't because we'll probably get copyright struck. But you had like the basic initial Saban translated version of it was, or the interpretation of it was, here's five funky teens, and they all know some kind of martial
Funky.
arts,
I love
even
that
though
you use the word funky.
they all do some kind of martial arts. Even no matter how ridiculous it was. I think the Red Ranger genuinely knew martial arts. But then you had Kimberly, who she was an acrobat, but
Right.
somehow that translated into martial arts fighting.
Well, it
Like
worked for Batgirl.
my yeah, but she was trained by Batman, so like
Right.
that makes more sense. But like being a cheerleader, she's not Buffy. If she was Buffy, that would make sense. But my favorite was the fact that of course they were color race coordinated. So the black
Right.
guy who was also of course a
Don't say it.
breakdancer.
Don't say it, because you're the Black Ninja.
That's yeah, yeah, but I'm not color coordinated and slotted into a show.
Not yet.
I mean, we are part of a show, but I wasn't forced into this. All right, I was forced into this, but I also don't fight putties on the side. But I was always hilarious that when the putties would come out and they wouldn't change into Power Rangers yet, they would fight them using whatever specific skill, and Zach would breakdance fight. That
Right,
was
which
his
is my
martial
favorite.
art, which
You know,
is
if they would have
terrible,
made
ridiculous.
Turbo, Ozone, and Kelly fight against some monsters, we would have got a break in 3.
Oh, that would have been fun. Those guys should have been Power Rangers.
Mhm.
But I remember when that toy line came out, I was fascinated by it, and so many people were into the show. And then you had Tommy, who showed up and was like, you know, like martial arts, and the cool
Mhm.
evil Green Ranger, and that figure was amazing. And then you had the Dragon Zord, which was also amazing.
Right,
Who did not do karate, but he was awesome.
right. I find the number of kids who are taking self-defense classes now are far fewer than when we were kids and
Yeah.
everybody wanted to be a ninja. I remember, you know, when we were kids, you had your toys, but
Mhm,
everybody wanted or created
mhm.
some pair of nunchucks.
Yes, we've all hit
Um,
ourselves in the face with some
oh,
home style
some
nunchucks at
homestyle,
some
yeah.
point.
And everybody had a throwing star because you could buy them up at the pharmacy at the
Yes.
time, right? Everybody was a ninja.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept to just make generic characters and kind of crank them out. Like a lot of like you said, a lot of generic kind of dollar store. You could always go in and find them along with that
Yeah.
multi pack of dinosaurs. You could always find some sort of it would be a generic name like Martial Warrior, and you
Right,
could
but they were
find
all cool. I have
yeah.
so many of them that came out right after the Chuck Norris Karate Commandos that
Mhm.
Remco did and other lines did, and we used them as wrestlers because they were in that size frame.
You know,
But there were a lot of really cool martial arts figures.
for as much as WWE loved using ninja style characters and bringing people over from New Japan, there weren't. I don't. Do you remember a character named Hakushi?
I don't.
He was
I know that doesn't make a good dialogue,
no.
but I don't.
No, I feel like probably a lot of people didn't. He was I don't remember his name. I want to say he came from New Japan, and
I
he
thought you were
came
gonna say
over.
New Jersey.
He was a New Jersey guy. You know what? In the 90s and 80s, when everyone when you had a guy like Yokozuna who was a Samoan, they didn't care. They would
He
or they'd find some Italian guy and be like, "You're from Iran now."
right.
That's just what they
He would
did. But
untie his gold medallion from his chest hair and
yeah,
swing it around like a ninja weapon.
just because. But he was really he was such a striking looking guy because he was Japanese if I recall correctly, and he just wore like martial arts pants, and he was bare chested, but he had uh, writings going up and down his entire
Hmm.
body, and like it was a really cool. He was so different looking from everyone else that had come
Yeah,
over, and he had a quick feud with Bret Hart and then disappeared. But I don't think there's ever been an action figure of him. There are
I
kind of
don't
like
believe seeing
older.
one.
Yeah, you would definitely know if you saw him.
Right, yeah,
Uh,
that's what I'm saying. I would have recognized that look,
mhm.
and I don't recall ever seeing him.
Yeah, so it's kind of a shame. And then later on, they did Kung Fu Naki. Funaki
Right.
was a Japanese wrestler who was part of a group
Well,
called
which
Kai
all
and
started
Tai.
with Ricky Steamboat.
Oh yes, see, he has action figures, which are
Oh yeah, lots of
great.
good ones.
His crossover figure with Masters of the Universe
So good.
is great. It's kind of weird because I guess they were still creating the tooling at the time,
Mhm.
and again, kudos to Mattel for getting Vince McMahon to pay for their Masters of the Universe tooling. Bravo, because that guy's a scumbag. Take
I
his
feel
money.
it's not the worst thing he's
But
paid for, I'm sure.
but they had started cobbling together pieces from, like, they were using some pieces from the old classics Master Universe line. And I have to thank Eric, who we had on a couple weeks ago for Transformers, because I had gotten Steamboat and he came with the Dragon Blaster, which was cool, but it also didn't connect to him properly. And I was talking to him and I'm like, why is, like, he looks really cool because I like the colors, but why isn't this latching on? And he's like, oh, because they took the classics version. Like, that's not new. They took the classics one and recolored them, and they just threw them in the package. It looks great, won't connect to them. But yeah, the Master Universe version of Steamboat is really cool looking. Nothing for Kung Fu Naki, unfortunately. I believe he has a regular figure from when he was part of Kai and Tai, and maybe it's for the better that we didn't get this awful interpretation of him, because Vince McMahon is an immature 13-year-old, and that kind of thing amused him. But not as many martial arts ninja style figures for wrestling. But you know what does? You know what? Who were making really cool martial arts figures? The Fwoosh. They did a line called I think it was Iconic Heroes.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, Iconic Heroes, and they were, or I'm sorry, Articulated Icons. And it was really nicely sculpted martial arts warriors. And they had more of that classic style. They looked a lot more accurate. And then you could get different bucks that had different styles of gis. And they also started creating, I think towards the end of the line, actual ninjas that had the foot claws and the hand claws for climbing walls. You would get like a grappling hook, and they were really well done. So I would like to see a lot more of those kind of pop up. And I think some of the third party companies have started looking more into historically accurate style martial arts figures, or more historically accurate ninja characters.
I'm glad that that's kind of coming back, because like I said, the market got flooded with ninjas, and then they became a joke in the comic books, even so much so that the Tick comic book really made a joke out of ninjas. They would disguise themselves as a hedge by holding hands and standing in the street. But and then
I'm sorry to cut you off. We've hit the end.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to make this a two-parter?
You may want to.
We may have to do a two-parter. You know what? How about everyone else let us know what you think? Get a hold of us on Twitter. Our handle is 2 Guys Talking Toys. That's number 2, no G after the talking. Like and subscribe to the video if you're enjoying what you hear. Our email, our Gmail is the same. Take care, everybody.